Hi and welcome. Today I have an art card, and specifically not calling it an artist trading card because the dimensions are 3 by 4 and it's a little larger than a trading card, and I don't trade them, so the size works best for me. And I'm covering a mixed media paper with some varnish, some matte varnish from Liquitex, just because I'm using these distress crayons and they're water soluble, and I just kind of want them to sit on top of the matte varnish. And I started off with Twisted Citron, that's the green, Peacock Feathers is the blue, and Mustard Seed is the yellow. And once I get my colors on, I just dip my finger into water and just start spreading it around, and I just find it spreads so much nicer when I have put the varnish on my paper before I begin. So I'm just spreading it around. I'm specifically not trying to mix colors. It's okay if they do a little bit, but I'm not trying to do it a lot. Now I've dried it, and now I'm going to take the stencil, and this is just one I've cut on my Cricut. You can use any stencil you want, but I'm going to take my dauber and some Distress Glaze and just put in some of those areas, cover it with the Distress Glaze, and the idea is that those areas will resist any more medium. So I'm starting with the Distress Oxide in Mermaid Lagoon, adding some water to that, and then just start dipping my card into the color. The downside of that Distress Glaze is I think I put so much on, it took up so much of the area that it didn't leave much room for the oxide to go in. And so that's dry, and so now I'm doing the kind of reverse technique. I'm taking the blender brush, dipping it in the oxide, using the same stencil, and just kind of rubbing it in just to get some of the color in there. And then I'm taking the Distress Oxide in green, and I'm going to take that stencil and try to just make some of that pattern on there. And again, because I have most of that Distress Glaze there, it's not taking it real well, so I'm just coming and starting to take it around the edges. That's really kind of where I want it, is around the edges. Now I'm using some Daler Rowney, it's acrylic ink, in the color Process Cyan, and I'm just putting it down. I added a little bit of raw water and just going to dip my card in to add some bright color. I dry that up good, and now I'm starting to stamp. I'm using some StazOn black ink, and this stamp I've had for years and years, probably got it at Michael's a long time ago, and it's got real big numbers on it, which I like. And I'm just randomly stamping the numbers on it. Now I had intended to take these bits of collage paper and put them on the left side, but because I had so much stamping on the right, I decided to move it over to the right side and kind of brighten that side up a little bit. And these collage papers are just pieces of a jelly print, scraps I have left over. have a whole box of jelly print scraps. I'm just figuring out how I want them to go there. And then I add them with my Tombow glue stick. And I trim off the excess. And I use a Posca paint pen to add a little dotting, or little marks, I guess. I do that. I think it's aqua green or green aqua. And now I'm interviewing candidates for the focal point. I pulled some out of my watercolor fodder stash, and anything that might have worked. Some I discard right away. And I'm down to 2. And I decide on the yellow one because it just stands out so nicely on the blue. But because it has a little bit of pink in the center of the flower, I decide to add a little bit of pink on the card, just so it's not totally by itself. And now I grab some liquid glue and use that to secure it to the card. I decide that maybe I need a little bit more stamping, not a real heavy stamp, just kind of a real light stamp there where I added the collage. And now it's time for a varnish, matte varnish seal. And now I'm going to add my sentiment, which is walking on sunshine. And I just printed that out of my Cricut on some black cardstock. And then I just put a little matte varnish on top of that sentiment. Now I wait for it to dry. Once it's dry, I'm going to mount it on that chipboard you see in the picture to give it some sturdiness. And I hope this made you want to create something today. And if you liked it, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Have a great day.